This video is intended to be an overview of linear relationships instructed in Math 6 through Math 8. Any teacher who is the instructor of one of these courses should watch this video in addition to the background video specific to their content.
The standards, essential knowledge and skills, and understanding the standard can be found on pages 27 through 35 in the 6th grade curriculum framework, pages 25 through 32 in the 7th grade curriculum framework, and pages 30 through 37 in the 8th grade curriculum framework.
In 6th grade, students begin this study by learning about ratio as a comparison of two quantities. Students should make a mathematical connection with their fraction instruction from prior years. Then students will move their understanding to ratio as a rate. Students learn that a rate is a way to express or represent how two different units relate to each other.
6th grade curriculum continues to challenge students to make connections with equivalent fractions and relate that to equivalent ratios to solve problems, as shown here with the walking example. Students will use a ratio to determine an equivalent ratio. Students will use this knowledge of equivalent ratios to determine whether a proportional relationship exists. Students also learn about unit rate, which describes how many units of the first quantity of a ratio correspond to 1 unit of the second quantity, as shown here by changing the question to a single mile.
The process goal of connections is essential as 7th grade students use 6th grade knowledge to determine the unit rate to find the slope of proportional relationships. It is important to note that in 7th grade, slope will be the unit rate, since any time a student is asked to find slope in 7th grade, it will be in a proportional relationship and it will be limited to positive values. In 8th grade, non-proportional relationships as well as negative and zero slopes are part of the curriculum, and undefined slopes are introduced. Mathematical communication would include that slope may also be referred to as rate of change, constant of proportionality, and the constant ratio of y to x.
Starting in 7th grade, students will find slope given a graph. The introduction of a slope triangle, steepness, and change in vertical over change in horizontal are the discussions for 7th grade continuing to 8th grade.
The process goal of representations will be addressed as students in grades 6 through 8 learn multiple ways to represent these relationships. In 6th grade, students will have to make connections between graphs, tables, and verbal descriptions of the same data. In 7th and 8th grade, equations are added to this list of representations.
In 6th grade, students will use tables of values, also known as input-output tables, to determine whether a relationship is additive or multiplicative. Multiplicative relationships are proportional relationships and will always pass through 0, 0, or the origin. In Algebra 1, this is known as a direct variation. Additive inverses will lead to the description of y-intercept represented by the variable b. In 7th grade, the algebraic representation of these relationships take the form of y equals mx for multiplicative relationships and y equals x plus b for additive relationships. In 8th grade, a relationship may be both multiplicative and additive, which will be represented by slope-intercept form equations y equals mx plus b.
The process goals of connections and problem solvings will be essential through real-world examples of linear relationships. In 7th grade, students will begin the exploration of dependent and independent variables, while 8th grade students continue to identify variables and determine if functions are continuous or not based on real-world context. Be sure to watch the background video for each grade level SOL, as well as the instructional and assessment videos.